Welcome to the International Luxury Hotel Association's webinar series, where we connect the most innovative minds in luxury hospitality to explore what's shaping the future of our industry. Through trends, strategies, and success stories, our goal is to inform, inspire, and connect hospitality leaders around the world. Today's conversation, in collaboration with Crestron, takes a closer look at illuminating hotel renovations, simplifying lighting upgrades with Crestron and DMF lighting, and the opportunities it presents for forward-thinking hospitality brands. Giorgio Galaris, Manager of Residential Marketing for Crestron, I'm handing the conversation over to you.
Thank you, Sharon. Now, you might be wondering, why lighting? Why dedicate an entire conversation to something that's often considered behind the scenes? Here's why. Lighting is one of the most powerful yet underutilized tools in hospitality design. It shapes mood, influences behavior, and defines that guest experience, often before even a single word or service is delivered to the customer. From the moment a guest walks into the lobby, light should set the tone for luxury, comfort, and brand identity. It's not just about ambiance, though. Lighting plays a critical role in energy efficiency and sustainability goals, operating costs and maintenance, renovation timelines and operation, and increasingly technology integration and smart control. Whether you're overseeing a boutique property or a global portfolio, lighting upgrades are no longer a design decision, they're a strategic investment. Today, we'll explore how Crestron and DMF lighting are making that investment easier, smarter, and more impactful for hospitality brands. To help us unpack this, we're joined by three industry leaders who bring deep expertise and real-world insight into the luxury hospitality space. Michelle, let's start off with you.
Thank you, Giorgio, and thank you everyone for joining us today on this webinar. My name is Michelle Gus. I'm the Vice President of Hospitality at Crestron. Been with the company for about 17 years and very excited to be here today to talk about this topic of lighting in hotel renovations.
Perfect. Thank you, Michelle. Samantha?
Thank you, Giorgio, and thanks to everyone here. I'm Samantha Orzel. I'm the Senior Director of Commercial Growth here at DMF Lighting. I handle all of our marketing initiatives and also have spent some time over the past 8 years on the sales side working on lots of hospitality projects. So I'm looking forward to share some insight and best practices with you all.
Love that. And last but certainly not least, Chip.
Hi, my name is Chip Israel. Our firm is Lighting Design Alliance, now a Salas O'Brien company. And we're not associated with the manufacturer. We're actually lighting designers. So what we do is listen to the ownership, what their needs are, and then we work with firms like DMF and Crestron to integrate their products into the designs to enhance the guest experience.
Thank you all for joining us today. We're super, super excited. And let's jump right into this. This first question is actually for you, Chip. In your work with luxury properties, how have you seen lighting influence that guest experience and reinforce those brand standards?
Great. Well, lighting is so integral to design. And what I want to back up, first of all, and say many people think about lighting as that decorative light fixture, and that's very important. Sometimes that establishes a sense of scale or like we do a lot of Disney hotels that may establish the theming of the room or those guest experience types of spaces. But to us, it's really the architectural lighting that provides that functional type of lighting. First of all, we can use lighting as wayfinding. We can literally identify the building from far away. We identify the porte cochere. We're using lighting to guide people through the space. So as they come in the front doors, to the front desk, to the elevator lobbies, and then even to the rooms themselves. And to us, it's really about doing lighting well, is when you don't notice the lighting. That's why we have this contradiction between lighting is so important, but yet when it's done really well, you don't even notice that it's part of the architecture. So our job is really to influence the guest experience, to use it as graphic wayfinding, and then to provide the functional amount of light and to allow the guests to experience the spaces such as the typical guest room or the amenity spaces.
That's a big point. We've definitely been in spaces with poor lighting, and then that's when the light bulb goes off of like, oh, well, this doesn't feel or seem right. And it's only brought to your attention when it's bad. But good lighting, I couldn't agree more, and I think all of us would agree, is that that's an experience of an ambiance and of a setting that is just positive, and we don't even realize it. Michelle, did you have any thoughts that you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, that was so well said by Chip. But when it comes to technology with the lighting and the way that that's controlled, being able to take that lighting and change it throughout the day based on what's happening in that space, whether it's a guest room, setting that scene to where the guest might arrive in the evening and maybe they want it at a relaxed setting where those light levels are more dim, and it creates a very nice sense of relaxation and calm. And then maybe, they need to be working in that space and have that lighting much brighter during other times of the day. That's very relevant and important in the guest room to their experience, and something that they can personalize, which is such a huge, important topic for hospitality right now, is that personalized experience for the guest. And then when we get into the public spaces, of course, of the hotel, that lighting can completely change the way that a space looks and feels. We see that a lot in the restaurants or the lobby of a hotel. So yeah, it can really make such a big impact.
Not only does it make a big impact on that guest experience and that wayfinding, as you said, Chip, which is the perfect way to put it, but that can also impact sustainability goals and long-term energy savings. Samantha, from DMF's perspective, how does that kind of come into play, especially when we're talking about renovation?
With the introduction of LEDs about 15 years ago, they really presented a unique opportunity for us to be able to provide lighting in much more compact form factors, yet get the same light output, and also to be able to control the light to direct it throughout the space wherever we so desired. With that being said, a lot of our existing hotels were built prior to 15 years ago. And so that poses some challenge potentially to integrate this LED technology into the existing spaces. And I think, a lot of hotels are really focused on sustainability goals with their day-to-day operations, but often sustainability can be overlooked in terms of its impact on the construction that's involved with some of these projects. So there's, lots of different ways that I think we're going to discuss to achieve this. But I think sustainability should for sure be considered when doing some of these renovations.
That's so true. When you're making these renovations and everything and making these updates, you're often restricted by what is already there or what's existing. Chip, could you give us a little bit more color on your experiences with tackling sustainability in these types of retrofits?
Yeah, and Sam is right on in the fact LEDs have been a game changer. They are much more efficient. I think everybody understands that. But I also want to let the audience know there's good LEDs and there's really bad LEDs. And we always fight for quality, especially in the luxury market. So things like color temperature, that's the warmth or the coolness of the lighting. Those are what are really important. And then what we call the color rendering property. So we want colors to look true and natural underneath those. And now with controls, we can even have the ability to mimic the incandescent lamp, where as it dims down, it actually gets warmer in color. So the whole idea is that these efficient watts per square foot, sure that sustainability is achieved. And what I mean by that is that the products, there's an LED, there's a driver, sometimes there's a housing, and in retrofit markets, there's existing wiring. So that as we develop solutions, we want to try and reuse the existing wiring as much as possible. If we can reuse the housings, that's wonderful. But some of the old fixtures had giant apertures. As Sam said, the form factors are smaller. So we can make smaller apertures and even have products like DMF offers where they actually have a mud-in bezel so that you can use old technology. I'm going to call it those housings and wirings, and get a very modern look with a very small or minimal aperture. Then we also want to make sure that the components are interchangeable so that over time you can change the LED or you can change the drivers. Believe it or not, there's light fixtures out there that when a part goes bad, you have to cut open the ceiling and replace the whole fixtures. We want to make sure that we have the glare control so that we get the quality out of the light fixture without seeing the sources. And it's really three rules. The three rights is what I call them. The right amount of light in the right location and on for the right amount of time. That's really simplified. But as Michelle said, that's how we control or modulate those looks, create those presets, feelings. And now we even have the ability through LEDs and remote control types of systems, for example, to set that guest experience. So when you check in at the front desk can actually turn the lights on in the room. That's so much more efficient than just having the lights on 100% of the time, waiting for the guests to show up. I travel a lot. My first experience at 90% of my hotels is checking in after dark. Okay. Do you want the lights to be on since housekeeping was there, which could have been 10 o'clock in the morning? All that electricity. So just like you turn on the air conditioning, now you can turn on the lighting and fine tune it for your guest experience.
Chip, I think you're spot on there as well. And it kind of goes back to what we were saying earlier of like we've all experienced or we've noticed poor experiences with that color temperature, right? Speaking to the quality of these fixtures where you have warm light, warm light, warm light, and then this glaring cool light out in the corner, or you buy the wrong bulbs from the hardware store and now part of your house is a completely different look. It looks clinical almost. We've all seen examples of how that looks poorly. So getting the right fixtures at the right quality to deliver a seamless experience is super, super important. So my next question is actually for you, Samantha. What can you give us a little bit more perspective on DMF Lighting's modular approach to these flexible design forward retrofits? Chip gave you some credit already in terms of talking about some really, really cool products that you guys integrate, but can you kind of flesh out a little bit more of what's your design philosophy? What are you going forward when you're bringing these solutions to market?
Sure. So, I mean, I think to kind of pull it back a step even before DMF, with a traditional retrofit, you essentially have three paths. You can rip out the entire existing fixture, but as Chip mentioned, is less desirable in terms of it's not sustainable. It also, has substantial cost and time impact on those construction timelines. And if this is an existing hotel, you don't really want to take, especially those revenue generating spaces, out of service for very long. So, that allows you the most design flexibility, but is often the most costly and time consuming. We then have kind of a hybrid approach, as Chip mentioned. So we as DMF have a 6-to-4 conversion kit, which can essentially take a 6-inch can or 5-inch can and bring it down to a 4-inch aperture. It allows you to use the existing housing and wiring, but you do have to do some, drywall repair, mudding, taping to allow for that. But essentially very minimal, comparable to the other alternative, ripping out the entire ceiling. And then the third option would really be using the existing can, but using kind of a hybrid module and trim that has adaptive trim clips. We did a project in Beverly Hills, where there were all these different existing can sizes from 4 inches all the way up to 4.5, 5 inches, 5.25. And so essentially we made different adaptations to our retrofit trim clips to be able to adapt the housing and our LED modules into it. What makes our solutions unique, I would say, is often with kind of that third approach, there are a lot of options out there. You could order something, online for very minimal cost to be able to achieve that. But as Chip mentioned in his first point, there are good and bad LEDs, and you're often going to have, issues with reliability, color rendering, potentially as you put it on your control system, flickering and things of that nature. So often when you go that third approach, which is often, the quickest and the most cost effective, you're going to have to make some sacrifices on the performance. What makes DMF solution really unique is that we've, developed our drivers and optics to fit inside of an kind of all-encompassing module with Quick Connect. So it allows for ease of serviceability and interchangeability. But because we've, developed this driver, we do not sacrifice the dimming piece. So all of the dimming is able to go down to 1% and below. So I would encourage you, if you are kind of choosing that third track and, really looking for a quick upgrade, that you do ensure that, your fixtures are going to, meet a minimum dimming protocol. I would recommend mocking them up so that you know that they're going to also, work with the existing equipment on site. But those are all things to consider.
So what I'm hearing is that there's a whole lot to consider. And when you're going down these different paths, you want to make sure that you're at least equipped with all the knowledge to make an educated and informed decision. To Chip, to your point earlier, you're talking about sustainability, not only from the green thumb approach of sustainability, but also, is this solution that we're implementing sustainable for us to maintain? And so it's super, super important to, when you're selecting the solutions that you're going with, to have at least the thought and the process and consider these different things. Michelle, once the fixtures are in place, right, Crestron's integrated control system takes over. How does Crestron simplify that installation and that long-term management to make it more sustainable for our hotel owners, and especially environments where downtime needs to be minimized, where that's a big priority?
Absolutely. So similar to DMF's approach, there are a couple different paths that you can take when it comes to control. And the control aspect is going to lead to the sustainability as well. But depending upon the path that you take with the fixtures and the wire infrastructure that you're going to have in those spaces, Crestron does have a number of different control types to be able to control those fixtures appropriately. And to be able to achieve the sustainability goals and also the overall look and aesthetic of not only the light itself, but also those keypads and dimmers that the guest interacts with, which is their part of the experience. So going hand in hand with the lighting control is going to be, of course, the occupancy sensors, which for sustainability is going to play a huge role on making sure that when a guest is not in a room, that those lights go to a energy saving mode or an off state, whatever the hotel decides that that is. And then, of course, when a guest is there and occupancy is detected, that those lights stay in a state that the guest wants them to be in. So that's huge. And with using things like your occupancy sensors and smart lighting control, also dimming, as Chip mentioned, it can save these hotels up to 30% in reducing energy, which is very, very significant for the properties. As far as the control aspects themselves, which I touched on, and the actual interfaces of the keypads and dimmers, Crestron does offer a number of different ways to do that. There can be low voltage, which is going to be when they do that more extensive rewire of the system. They're going to maybe locate those lighting loads into a centralized location. Of course, you have to have the space for that, which is often very, very limited in a hotel guest room. And it's also more costly because you are running new wiring. So we do have a very unique approach with our wireless technology where you can keep the existing wire infrastructure in place and control those fixtures, whatever they may choose, to be able to properly dim those to the levels that the guest wants. And from an aesthetic guest interaction perspective, there's a lot of variety there, even with the wireless side, which is very unique to Crestron. Finishes like your metals, glass, which is very unique to the wireless world. Usually you have to do a low voltage system for that. But with Crestron, we do offer a very diverse aesthetic option to control and interact with those lighting fixtures that the hotel chooses.
Michelle, great points. But controls are so much more than just saving energy. For example, the fact that when you're in bed, as you flip your legs over the side to get up, you could have occupancy sensors under the night table or underneath the bed to turn on a little step light so you get safety lighting or spill of light, or the same thing as you enter the bathroom. I'd also like to point out to all of the owner operators out there that probably every 5 to 7 years you're updating and changing the bed linens, the curtains, those types in the room. Lighting is an investment. We're seeing a lot of times that the guest rooms are 40 years old and most of the hardware is the same in there. So this is a great opportunity to really design, integrate, and install for your guest experiences for the next decades. This will outlast your, I'm going to call it your duvet covers on the beds.
Chip, I really love those real world examples on how having a lighting expert within the conversations when making these big decisions, it really emphasizes how critical those relationships are. Are there any other kind of like success stories that you'd love to share?
Well, we hope every job is a success story, and I mean that seriously. So whether it's the top of the market, now there are 6 and 7 star hotels versus I'm going to call it a 3-star, we feel that a lighting designer should bring value to the table. We don't get paid by the fixture. We don't get paid depending upon how many lights that we put in a room. So our number one goal is to understand the client's tenants or guests. I think that's the most important thing. So when we do a project in, for example, mainland China, we may have much more animated type of lighting, perhaps slightly higher light levels. If we do it in India, many times they might have a slightly cooler color temperature because that's building into their preferences. And we have to take the ego of the designer out of the equation and say, not what we want, but what is best for those guests. Now, turning the world has really changed post-COVID with more and more people traveling around the world. So we still want a certain level of high quality aspects to the lighting, the high color rendering effects. But you can do, I'm going to say, different color temperatures and still do a great job. The biggest key, as Giorgio, as you really said, is all the color sources have to match in the room. Because if the majority are one color and then one is a different color, it really stands out. But it's really pulling together the needs of the owner operator as well as the guest. Well, I'm going to say the guest needs is that's what creates the experience. And we like to take it up one step. We like to do a couple of things that the normal occupant doesn't have in their house. This is your chance when you're going away on vacation. You really want something that's kind of cool, that people, whether they're influencers, take their picture in front of it or in their guest room actually have that preset look and mood, because most people don't have that in their typical residence. And I think that's what's really important, that we really want to turn the overall experience into the room as something that is, I'm going to call it, memorable for the guests. Now, having said that, we still want it easy to operate, okay? Crestron can do amazing things with touchpads and things on your phone and all this other great stuff. But a lot of times we got to keep it simple for the old people like me, which is a manual switch. And then you can go to the TV to operate the lighting if you choose to do that. So it's really about creating that experience for the guests. That's what creates a successful project. Now, I will say the only 2 complaints you ever get in an entire hotel is pretty simple. Number one is enough lighting at the vanity. Is there soft lighting so women can apply makeup and men can shave under their chin? And then, believe it or not, is there enough light on the bed to read? Even though the world has all these devices, that's still the complaints. The rest of it could be color changing. It'd be dark, moody, bright, Those are the two real critical areas. And then besides code lighting for the corridors, have fun in the rest of the types of spaces, but really don't forget about those key two areas, because that's what's really important to your guests.
Delivering an experience that is different, right? You know, why should someone leave the comfort of their home where they know how everything is? When you're delivering an experience that is truly memorable, like you said, Chip, that's what really differentiates you. Not only as a destination of some place to relax or to stay, but amongst other competitors on the market as well. It is really, really fascinating. One thing that
Giorgio, I did
Yes.
want to just add one thing to what Chip said as well. Chip mentioned that you want to give them a better experience in their hotel than they may have at home. And I will say that what we've seen, and I'm sure DMF has seen this as well, is that people, as they have incorporated more technology, more lighting control into their own homes, they have come to expect that type of technology in their hotel at minimum, if not better, as Chip described. So it's really driven, I think, a lot of hoteliers, a lot of design professionals, whereas maybe they didn't consider doing any type of control or any type of, call it smart lighting in a hotel. Now it really is at the expectation of that guest, especially in a luxury hotel.
How cool is it to be in bed and able to touch one button to turn off every light in the room, rather than getting up and running around and turning light switches on and off and things? All that is really simple technology today, but it has to work together.
Exactly.
Having these personalized solutions and really niche use cases is so cool and really does make a memorable experience. But I know a lot of people listening are thinking about, well, how can we deploy such a renovation with as minimal disruptions as possible, right? So, Michelle, can you kind of give us a little bit more color on how we support hotels in executing these types of stuff?
Absolutely. This is really where the scalability comes into the control side of things, and having the ability to really start with a very simple single phase of a property and being able to then expand that based on the retrofit schedule to the entire property, and even in some cases to a hotelier's entire hotel portfolio. By using the Crestron Solutions existing infrastructure and the ability to have control that aligns with whatever is existing in the hotel, it really does allow that to have the minimal amount of downtime and allow the hotel to be able to continue to have a large portion open and continue to generate revenue even during that retrofit time. The scalable solutions just really lend to that and to providing the best benefit in that case.
And Samantha, from your perspective, what is DMF Lighting doing to support with these flexible renovation solutions?
So I think, as I mentioned before, what makes our product really unique is the fact that all of the LED chip, the driver, all embedded within the module, and they have a touch safe quick connect, very reminiscent of the light bulb. So it allows for really quick renovation retrofit installs where, especially if you're just going the route of using that existing can, you're adding an adapter maybe to that Edison base that will attach to our module, a hybrid trim with kind of those clips that will work within that existing can. And you can renovate that fixture within a matter of minutes versus, hours or days. So with that, I think that also lends itself to some additional benefits down the road. Once that fixture does need to be serviced, you do have, the ability to do so without the need of an electrical contractor. So your standard maintenance staff will be able to do that. You don't have to take a room out of service or a revenue generating space out of service for very long at all to be able to make those modifications. And additionally, as you want to make upgrades to the space, maybe you're putting artwork on the wall and you want to go from a downlight to an adjustable that's really going to highlight that piece of artwork, you are able to do so again without the need for many tools or that service of the electrical contractor that might take days to get out to the site if you don't have one on staff.
And we see it also on the design side, and it's causing creative solutions. For example, more and more projects have lighting built into headboards, whether it's sconces, it's reading lights, it's toe kick type of lights, even uplights on the top of it. Even for one Disney job, we had Tinkerbell's, if you will, Stardust going across it. But the beauty of that is it gets built off site, and then it just shows up and they just plug in one thing, or they plug in the control module and then plug that in to the wall. So what it's really doing is it's eliminating that expensive on-site electrical contractor costs.
Being able to integrate really, really cool solutions and save on the labor and the delivery of that because you brought the expertise at the right time is a perfect way to deploy these types of solutions at scale. One thing that I know this audience is really interested in is the best practices. We have a couple of you here who are experts with what you're doing. So Chip, I'd love to start with you. What are some like 2 or 3 best practices that if a hotel owner is considering a renovation when it comes to lighting, what are some of the things that they should really keep in mind?
I would say, first of all, understand your client's needs. So whether it's surveys, listening to complaints that have happened into the past, I would say probably the biggest issue is a lot of your guests don't know what bad lighting is. Okay, so they may not really comment on that. But as you said, and this may sound promoting, but bring in a design expert. Okay, and it doesn't have to be us. It has to be someone that can represent your best interest. That's what's going to give you the aesthetic, the art side of it, as well as the practical, the science side of those things, because that's our only job to do it. And all of our design professionals really survive based upon repeat business. The only way we get the next job from you is to outperform your expectations on your existing projects. And there is great lighting talent available now around the world, where it used to be you'd have to import it a lot of times from New York City or whatever. That's changed, and there's great expertise there. Take advantage of it. In all these projects, when it's a new build, we do a model room. In other words, they build a physical guest room so they can test the bedspreads and the curtains and make sure the pipes fit through the ceiling. Do that in your remodels too. Work with high quality vendors, manufacturers. Buy the product, install it, test it, make sure you like it, because to do one room, it's basically free. To do 1,000-room hotel, that cost it, I'm going to say amplifies. And then just take advantage of the technology that's available. What we're talking about used to be prioritized only for the presidential suites. That same technology now works in the regular suites and works in the typical guest rooms. That's a huge game changers from the whole hospitality side.
And Michelle, from the restaurant and from the control perspective, what are some things that you would really want this audience to consider as best practices for going down these renovation paths?
Absolutely. So for Crestron, we like to actually get involved with, as Chip said, with those design professionals that the hotels are bringing in. And please bring us in as early as possible to help talk about what hardware and software solutions we can provide to achieve their needs. We do offer design services where we take the designs of the design professional, and we can provide solutions from Crestron that would align with those to provide the exact amount of control that's needed for the project with the proper control type so that it aligns with the fixtures that are being used in the project. And then also, as Chip mentioned too, with the model room, we get involved in that process. For our hospitality partners out there, we do provide that product for the model room. And it's a great way to be able to experience exactly what the lighting control is going to do with your fixtures. And of course, we work very closely hand in hand with DMF on that for the fixture side.
Right. Yeah, but this is for the spas. This is for the restaurants. This is for the lobby. I mean, we're not just talking guest rooms too. This is the technologies are applicable for all these other spaces. So.
Yeah.
Chip, I couldn't agree more when you're talking about all the lighting of those spaces. Samantha, what are some of those best practices for the guest rooms and other spaces within the hotel when it comes to these lighting renovations?
I would say overall, every property is very different. I think even under the same brand or the same hotel ownership, every property has unique character, unique limitations. Parts property that, you don't want to touch or change because it gives you some kind of nostalgia. So I always recommend, especially with all of the key players involved, I think your lighting manufacturer, your controls manufacturer, your lighting professional, your designer, to be able to walk the site together so you can really understand what those priorities are, what the current site conditions. By walking the site, you may come up with some unique solutions working together as a team that you may not have thought of beforehand. From the lighting side, with at least DMF fixtures, our products are pretty agnostic, so we can work with most lighting control systems on hand. But what we really need to understand is what's there, what's existing, so then I can work with my counterparts like Michelle to understand how we provide the best solutions that can talk to each other. Because I think that is one of the major missteps that I've seen during my time at DMF and also in my past lives when I've, worked more. Compatibility with lighting controls has been one of those situations that I've seen commonly come up time and time again. And I'm sure Chip and Michelle both have as well. So I think, really having all of the parties involved working together to come to a solution to ensure compatibility is going to give you the best possible outcome. And I know, we have teams that, are readily available throughout the country that are willing to go do site visits and walk with your facility managers, count the fixtures, determine, is that an 8-inch fixture? Is it a 7.5-inch fixture? And also offer customized solutions. So I mentioned we did a hotel in Beverly Hills a few years ago, and they had some, different phases of the building in which there were non-standard size existing cans, like a 4.5-inch can. And we were able to provide, a slight customization to our current product that might not have been something that was known to the common person or, common owner who was looking at our website. But because we did that site visit, we were able to identify really quickly a very simple solution that didn't add any, additional cost or time to the project timeline.
And I think that's the biggest theme that we can all agree on is the collaboration of all of these different parties that are really all we want to do is to deliver that best in class experience to not only the hotel owners, but to their guests as well. When it comes to the consideration of the specifying the lighting fixtures, the control, the design of all of this, how this all comes together. If there's one thing that we would recommend is have that conversation and have it early. Michelle, for anyone listening, what's the best way that they can get in touch with you and your team at Crestron?
So we do have a website dedicated to all hospitality inquiries, which is hotel@crestron.com. You'll see that on the slide as well. And we do ask that you just send us a quick email. We would love to set up a consultation for you, whether that's an on-site survey so that we can come on site and see what is there for the retrofit to make sure everything goes smoothly as possible. Or if you're a design professional, if you want more information, we could set up a meeting or a virtual call, but we would love to connect with you and really appreciate your time today.
Thank you, Michelle. Samantha, how can people get in touch with you to kind of learn more about DMF lighting?
So also our website is the great first step. We have a developer page, which has an intake form, which will kind of connect you with your contact for your site visit. But we also have a email address, just hospitality@dmflighting.com, where you can forward any of your inquiries and we can, triage that and get somebody back to you ASAP.
Perfect. Very easy to remember emails. And Chip, if someone is looking for lighting design expertise, how can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, I'll give you a little different option. What I would recommend, because we're talking to people around the world, is look at the IALD website, International Association of Lighting Designers. So if your project's in Greece or if it's in Turkey, wherever it may be, put in that location first, and you may find out you have local expertise that's right there. Number two, if you do want to find us, it's lightingdesignalliance.com. We're pretty available, but once again, we want you to get the best talent, and whether it's across the world or it's in your town, I think you'll find the support there.
Perfect. That is key to have that local support, the expertise, and of course, as you mentioned earlier, those cultural considerations as well. Fantastic. Well, thank you all for joining us today on this phenomenal, informative little forum we had today, all about lighting renovations. We brought the minds of Crestron, DMF, and lighting design all here to educate today's audience. So thank you again. Thank you, Samantha. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Chip, for joining us. And we'll see you all next time.
Meet the hotel industry's biggest leaders at Inspire Luxury Hospitality Conference. Back for its 16th year, Inspire 2025 is held in November in Prague and December in Las Vegas. It's the premier event for luxury hospitality. Land deals, learn strategy, and explore innovation. Visit us at inspire.ilha.org.